Good morning, students. Myself is Mrs. S. Sangeeta, working as an assistant professor in Colorado College of Engineering and Technology. So, in this class, we are going to see the subject called object-oriented analysis and design. So, in this subject, in Unit 5, we are going to see we are going to see the topic called object-oriented methodologies. So there are majorly three object-oriented methodologies are there. First one is Rumbaugh methodology, second one is Booch methodology, and third one is Jacobson methodology. We will see about these methodologies one by one. So before getting into these methodologies, we will see what is object-oriented methodology, why it is called using the term called methodology, and what is in the method. So all the basics we will see. Actually, what is methodology? Methodology is nothing but it is a science of methods. That's all. So, what is a method? Method is nothing but it's a procedure. It is like doing something. Okay. So, in our terms, in computer terms, the method is a set of procedures for doing some task. Okay. So it will have some specific goal, and it will be done step by step. So actually, we are having so many methodologies. Just we will see some introduction about these methodologies. So in the year 1986, the person who is called Booch, he came up with the object-oriented design concept, which is called as Booch methodology. So in the year 1987, the scientist called Shlaer and Steve Mellor came up with the concept of a recursive design approach. So likewise, in 1989, Bacon Cunningham came up with the CRC cards. In 1990, responsibility-driven approach was introduced by Booch Wilkerson. In 1991, Peter Code and Ed Jordan developed a code lightweight and prototype-oriented method. And then in 1991, Jim Rumbaugh and his team developed OMT, that is object modeling technique. And in 1994, Ivar Jacobson introduced a use case methodology. So among so many methodologies, nowadays we are using only three major approaches called the Booch methodology, Rumbaugh, and then Jacobson. Uh, okay. So the methodologies developed by Rumbaugh, Booch, and Jacobson, which are the origins of unified modeling language and the basis of unified approach. Okay, so in unified modeling language, the unified modeling language is not the implementation concept, it is just the visual representation of the system. So it is having so many number of diagrams called class diagrams, use case diagrams, state diagrams. So many things are there. Each kind of diagram is used for representing the system. So, Ramberg ETAL methodology. So, the first methodology is called as Ramberg methodology, which is OMT, Object Modeling Technique. OMT mainly describes a method for the system's analysis, design, and implementation using object-oriented technique. So actually, what is analysis? Analysis is nothing but just collecting all the requirements from the client or customers and analyzing all the requirements. That's all. So here, what will be the results of this phase? The results of the analysis phase are objects, dynamic and functional models. And then the second phase of OMT is system design. The result of the system design is nothing but just we are going to get the structure of the basic architecture of the system. And the third phase is object design. So here, based on the object design, the final output of this phase is a design document, which consists of a detailed objects and dynamic and functional models. And finally, the last phase is implementation phase. So in implementation phase, we will implement all the things using some programming language. The output of this implementation phase will be the reusable, extendable, and robust code using some programming language. So actually, there are three models in OMT. So what we had seen in these steps are the phases of the object modeling technique. The phases means so each step-by-step activity is called as a phase. Here we will have three models called object model, dynamic model, and functional model. In object model, the object model presented by the object model and the dictionary, data dictionary, and then dynamic model. So the dynamic model represents the dynamic behavior of your system. So the dynamic behavior is nothing but the interactions and passing messages, everything are coming under dynamic model. So to illustrate this dynamic model, we are going to use two kinds of diagram called state diagram and event flow diagrams. And then the third kind of model is called a functional model. So this functional model is represented by using data flow and constraints. So the next methodology, we will see the next kind of methodology, which is called the Booch methodology. The Booch methodology covers the analysis and design phases of software development, mainly. The bootstrap sometimes is criticized for his large set of symbols because in Booch methodology we are going to use so many symbols because we are going to have so many diagrams under this Booch methodology. So what are the diagrams that covered here means a class diagram, object diagram, state transition diagram, module diagrams, process diagrams, interaction diagrams. All the diagrams are covered under this Booch methodology. So, what all these diagrams say, what we can get using these diagrams, we will see one by one. So, a class diagram. So, a class diagram consists of a set of classes and the association between the classes. And then object diagram. So, here so many objects are represented and the interaction is recorded. So, in state transition diagram, so the objects are transited from one state to another through some message passing. So for example, if any event occurs, the object will move from one state to another state. So this is called a state transition diagram. In module diagram, all the modules which are going to be used in a system are represented. And the next one is process flow. So that is process diagram. So here the process flow is depicted. And then in interaction diagram, we are going to have two kinds of diagrams called sequence diagram and collaboration diagram. So in sequence diagram, so we can identify the sequence of message passing between the objects. So likewise, so to represent all these kinds of diagrams, we are going to have so many notations. So in Booch methodology, there are two types of processes are there. One is macro development process and the second one is micro development process. So in macro development process, everything, the overall process is concerned. So here, the steps in macro development process, conceptualization, analysis, design, evaluation, and maintenance. So macro development process mainly focuses on major activities and the steps involved, and the micro development process involves the minor activities like day-to-day activities. Okay. So here, what the micro development process is doing is just it is identifying the classes and objects and their semantics, relationships, and interfaces, implementation, etc. That's all. So that's all about Booch methodology, and the last one is Jacobson methodology. So the Jacobson methodology mainly covers the entire life cycle of the object. And so until it is going to use only the diagram which is called the use case diagram. So the use cases are nothing but they are the scenarios for understanding the system requirements. And the use case is an interaction between the users and the system. The use case model captures the goal of the user and the responsibility of the system to its users. So this is the representation of use case diagram. So in use case diagram, we will have the components like actors. The actors are represented using stick figures, and the use cases are represented using oval shape. So inside the oval shape, we will mention the use cases. But normally, the use cases will start with some verb, the verb followed by the subject, and the actor names will be mentioned explicitly. Okay, so that's all about the object-oriented methodologies. Even though we have so many number of methodologies, there are only three methodologies are used in our day-to-day life for software development. So they are called Rumbaugh, Booch, and Jacobson. That's all. So I think now you got some clear idea about object-oriented methodologies. Okay, thank you for your listening.